Imagine you decided to launch a startup, but instead of actually building a product, you just hacked into your neighbor's bank account and lived off the interest. In the human world, they would call you a fraud, but in biology, you would be called a strategic genius. Welcome to the bizarre world of parasitism, where being a freeloader isn't a disgrace but the absolute peak of evolutionary mastery. While proud predators burn precious calories chasing down their prey, and herbivores spend hours chewing through tough fiber, the parasite takes the path of least resistance. It is the ultimate business plan: minimum investment, maximum profit, and free delivery of nutrients straight into your system. Evolution is usually pretty harsh on lazy creatures, but here, it makes a very strange exception. You would think natural selection would wipe out these mooches the same way an antivirus deletes malware. But the statistics tell a completely different story, because more than half of all living organisms on Earth live exactly this way. It turns out nature absolutely loves cutting costs. If you can just delegate finding food, digesting it, and even reproducing to somebody else, why would you ever break a sweat? Parasitism isn't just about survival. It is a biological cheat code that lets you thrive in places where others would have starved and turned into fossils a long time ago. Take the lancet liver fluke, for example. This tiny worm turns an ant into an obedient puppet, forcing it to climb to the very top of a blade of grass and just wait there until a cow eats it. From the ant's perspective, this is a tragedy. But from the parasite's perspective, it is absolutely brilliant logistics. Or look at viruses, which literally hack into a host cell's operating system, forcing it to pump out copies of the invader instead of doing its actual job. It is pure cyberpunk in the microworld, where your own metabolism is weaponized against you. So why did this strategy become so incredibly popular? The real answer comes down to pure efficiency. In a brutal environment where resources are scarce and competition feels like a fistfight. Over the last discounted iPhone on Black Friday, the parasite beats everyone in sheer ROI. It doesn't need to build a nest, defend its territory, or evolve a complex brain. All it takes is the ability to quietly hack into someone else's system and silently siphon off their resources. 95. But here is the ultimate trap for a curious mind. If nature really hates freeloaders so much, why did parasitism become the single most successful survival strategy in the history of life? Is it possible that evolution isn't actually about strength and beauty, but simply about being the best at latching onto someone else's feeding trough? And what happens when the hosts run out, leaving the parasites as the only players left on the board? We are used to thinking of ourselves as the masters of this planet, but maybe we are just really convenient hosts for something much more cunning. Soon, you will find out exactly how these tiny masters of manipulation learn to rewrite the genetic code of entire species, turning their lives into an endless food delivery service. Picture a tiny bacterium that suddenly realizes its cozy little colony inside your gut isn't the whole world, but just a free, all-you-can-eat buffet for a massive organism. Business works exactly the same way, except instead of digestion, you are dealing with quarterly reports and corporate buyouts. When a bold little startup with burning eyes and innovative code bursts onto the market. It looks a lot like a clueless tourist walking into the jungle with a map drawn on a napkin. A giant tech corporation, much like an experienced python, never rushes to attack right away. It watches closely, evaluates the potential, and begins the process of symbiosis. First, they offer you a partnership, cozy co-working spaces, and access to endless servers. You feel like you are part of something massive, almost like an Elon Musk, just with fewer rockets. But slowly, your DNA begins to mutate. Your flexible schedule and creative chaos are replaced by strict KPIs, endless approvals, and never-ending meetings where people discuss how to best discuss the next set of meetings. Your highly unique product, the one that was supposed to disrupt the entire industry, just becomes a minor feature in the massive interface of a corporate ecosystem. You are no longer building the future, you are just optimizing a line item on a balance sheet. This is the economic nematode in action, where the corporation uses your intellect, your energy, and your hard work as a nutrient broth for its own growth. You turn into a hidden feature buried deep inside the bowels of a giant platform, one that users don't even know exists. Your unique identity dissolves into the corporate culture like a single drop of coffee in 10 gallons of boiling water. You are no longer the captain of the ship, you are just a nut in the engine, getting lubricated only so you don't start squeaking too early. The deepest irony here is that the founders walk away with golden handcuffs and an executive title, but they entirely lose the very drive that used to keep them up at night. You become a permanent part of the exact same system you once dreamed of destroying. And while you are out celebrating your successful IPO, somewhere in the quiet of an executive boardroom, they are already picking out their next victim, whose raw potential will become the fuel for their next wave of capitalization. Yet there was a time when you truly believed you were changing the world, instead of just becoming a convenient little add-on to someone else's balance sheet. Now, there is only one real question left to ask. Is there even a single spark of that original idea left inside you? Or have you finally been fully digested by the financial system? Have you ever wondered why your smartphone feed feels completely endless, as if it wasn't coded by programmers, but woven by the digital gods of insomnia themselves? We are used to believing that we are the ones surfing the internet, carefully picking out videos, and actively scrolling through the news. But let's just admit the obvious, because in this ecosystem, we are not the users. We are the nutrient substrate. We are those exact same ants being steered up to the top of a blade of grass by an invisible puppeteer, just so we stay glued to the glow of the screen a little bit longer. Today's algorithms are the ultimate parasites, not just living at our expense, but literally rewiring our dopamine loops to serve their own needs. In biology, there is a concept called mutualism, where both participants get something valuable out of the deal. But in the world of big data, the relationship looks a lot different. These platforms feed us content specifically designed to squeeze the absolute maximum amount of clicks, likes, and watch time right out of our attention span. In return, they take our time, which is the single most scarce resource of the 21st century. We think we are consuming content, but in reality, we are just supplying training data for neural networks that are actively learning how to manipulate us even better. This is a classic biological hijacking, executed entirely through a digital medium. Imagine that your attention is a massive field ready for harvest. Algorithmic systems sweep over your consciousness like a swarm of high-tech locusts, harvesting all the juiciest parts, like your interests, your deepest fears, your weaknesses, and even your moments of boredom. While you are swiping through yet another batch of memes, the system is quietly analyzing the exact second your heart rate spikes and your thumb hovers in hesitation. Every single reaction you give is a fresh dose of nutrients for the neural network, making it smarter so it can hook you even harder tomorrow. It has turned into a global arms race, pitting your basic ability to focus on what matters against an army of algorithms trained on billions of human reactions. They already know you way better than you know yourself. They know exactly what will force you to open that app at 3 in the morning, when logic is fast asleep and your primal brain is desperately craving a quick hit of dopamine. We have become the perfect hosts for digital parasites that have successfully turned our attention into an endlessly renewable resource. And this is where the biggest question of all comes up. If we are nothing but a growth medium for these software entities, where exactly does our free will end and the programming script begin? We gladly surrender our mental energy just to keep the feed refreshing and the neural network learning. We are feeding a system that actively makes us addicted. And inside this twisted symbiosis, our very sense of self slowly turns into a simple extension of the user interface. We built tools that promised to liberate us from the daily grind, but ended up locking ourselves entirely inside their endless loop. So who is the real master in this dynamic, if we can't even tear our eyes away from the screen when we fully realize we are just being used as batteries for an endless digital show? The answer is terrifyingly simple. We stopped being the players a long time ago, and now we are just the background props in a theater where the lead role went to the code. Here it is, the absolute singularity point where pure greed morphs into a death sentence. In biology, there always comes a moment when a parasite gets so bloated on stolen resources that its sheer mass starts to suffocate the host. Imagine a fitness coach who decides they are so incredible that instead of just giving advice, they literally start feeding on their client's energy through an IV drip. At first, it might look like an innovative premium service, but soon the coach gets heavier than the client, and the entire setup collapses under the weight of its own audacity. In economics, this exact process looks like bloated bureaucracy. where the number of managers completely outnumbers the people who are actually producing something real. When the superstructure gets unmanageably heavy, it inevitably snaps the spine of its own foundation. It is just simple math. You cannot endlessly suck the life out of a system that can no longer replenish its own losses. And then comes the finale, where the parasite, suddenly stripped of its food source, starts frantically devouring itself. It is exactly like a social network completely overrun by advertising bots trying to sell fake products to other bots, while the actual human users deleted their accounts ages ago. When the economic host finally collapses, drained all the way down to the bone, there are no victors or great civilizations left standing in the ruins. All that remains are hungry ghosts who have completely forgotten how to hunt, how to build, or even how to think for themselves. A parasitic system is always a one-way ticket to degradation. It robs the host of its life, and in return, it only gives the parasite a temporary, well-fed existence suspended in total emptiness. We see this in the history of massive empires that spent more money maintaining their bureaucrats than developing new technologies, and eventually vanished from the map, leaving behind nothing but a pile of dusty archives. So who exactly survives in this post-apocalyptic landscape? Only those who knew how to survive without latching onto someone else's feeding trough. The ones who kept the crucial skill of hunting for their own resources while everybody else was busy enjoying room service. In a world where the hosts are always the first to die out, the simplest, most resilient, and fully autonomous life forms suddenly claw their way right back to the top of the evolutionary pyramid. Complexity turns out to be a trap, and over-adaptation becomes a one-way ticket to oblivion. The next time someone offers you the chance to become a part of a perfect, self-sustaining ecosystem, just remember that every single feeding trough eventually hits the bottom. And when that bottom finally shows up, it is incredibly important that you aren't the one permanently fused to it. Because at the end of the day, nature always zeroes out the accounts. And for a banquet that lasted way too long, you will always have to pay the check with the only thing you have left, your own ability to survive.